I was reading the New York Times this morning, which is often how I start my day, although in the last year I've stopped reading the front section. I go right to the entertainment and kind of business science stuff, but the front pages are just too hard to read. But today is Sunday. They have the weekend review, and there was an article in it. I don't remember the title, but it was kind of a Christmas article about the problem we have with materialism and how unsatisfying the holidays are for so many people. And so this man who was writing it decided to go talk to a Swami in India to ask him how to deal with all of this stuff. And the man who was recommended to him, interestingly, was a guy from Houston, an American whose greeting was, "Hey dude," and then he proceeded to ask him questions. I have to say, I don't know the name of the title of the article. It's worth reading because it was actually very honest and very profound in many ways, and unusual for a newspaper to print something like this. And this man had some wonderful things to say, but one of the things that grabbed me was how he himself got into becoming a monk, because he had been a businessman and had been somewhat successful, right, maybe very successful. And he came up with a question that resonated for me because I hear it all the time. I used to hear it in myself, which is this all there is? With usually a very negative connotation. Is this it? You know, is this... It implies an enormous dissatisfaction with being alive, with being in the world, the sense that it somehow doesn't deliver very much. That especially if you succeed in the world, if you end up getting kind of the stuff that you've been looking for, particularly materially, and you go, is this all there is? You know, you get your big house, you get your big cars, you get probably to do anything you want to do and have everything you want to have, and then you just feel probably, classically, as empty inside as you did before you got it all. So here you are, having spent however many years or decades acquiring the stuff that's going to make you feel whole, make you feel attained, happy, content, whatever it is you're looking for, and you discover, of course, that it doesn't. And, you know, he was lucky. He discovered it somewhere in his 20s or 30s, and he was able to begin looking for what will give you that feeling. What is there? What is there? And a lot of people don't have that chance. They're looking to the very end. You know, if 20 million doesn't make you happy, then 30 will, or 50 or 100 million will make you happy. And so there's the constant pursuit of that stuff. If your formerly beautiful wife doesn't satisfy, get another beautiful wife and do that. I mean, it's really the way of the world. We all kind of have perceived that, and so the question becomes, really, what is there? What is there? Is this all there is? As you go into the pursuit of that question, as you start to dig in, first thing you will probably do is go toward it intellectually with your mind and try to pursue what is there in this world. And you know, you start perhaps to discover philosophy, you may discover theology, you may discover, you know, all the different kinds of thinkers who've asked similar questions, and the mind will try to perhaps give you answers, and those answers will probably be found after a period of study to not be satisfying. For a lot of reasons. One of them is that there's somebody else's answers. Even if they get it, in some way, you'll go, yeah, but, and usually the but is, why don't I have that contentment? Why don't I have that thing that I'm looking for, which suddenly is no longer going to come from somebody else's understanding or from your acquiring things? So where is where does this thing reside? Does it reside? Is there such a thing as contentment, happiness, bliss? I mean, there's so many more words I can use for that. But in the early pursuit of spiritual content, those are kind of the words people sort of take up. And usually, if you are sincere about this journey, you'll discover what you will call meditation or prayer. Meditation or prayer have a distinct quality. They kind of begin to bypass the normal mind pursuit, the normal sense of acquisition or knowledge as a source of your joy. And they kind of tell you, especially meditation, prayer is interesting because it's still mental in a way. It's pushing for something that you try to get deeper than that. And some people do. They begin to pray with their heart. They begin to pray with their gut in a way, especially if it's a sincere, needful moment, save somebody, help somebody. That can come from a very deep place. But meditation is letting go of the words, really. Letting go of the effort in every normal sense to get there. And it's a really kind of trust that has to come up, that if you just sit still, you will begin to find something that will resonate. And you don't even know quite what it will be, and you don't exactly know where it resides, but you sense that if I can just stop thinking, stop projecting with the mind, that something will just be there. And the problem is, the minute you start to do that, is you discover how almost impossible it is to stop thinking. It's just such an ongoing barrage of noise in everybody's head. And it's enhanced by years of living in the world. You've lived life long enough that you start to not have any concept of how to turn it off. And it becomes so difficult because thinking, just the noise of thinking, is a din that's always there. But then the content of thinking and the idea that it's the answer to getting you something becomes really debilitating, because you keep discovering in a way that it doesn't. It gives you a kind of concept, but it doesn't give you the thing itself. So trusting that you can let go of thought and actually have it start to quiet down is hard to believe, but in a sense, that's what happens. If you sit down and you get very still and you allow yourself to sit long enough, the mind gets exhausted. It just gets tired of itself. It gets tired of the blasting noise, and something starts to take over. There are so many forms of meditation, and they all have their own values. And I look to the meditation that we do as a particularly effective form because it's been effective for me. I don't know that it's necessarily effective for everybody, but what I really love about it is that this meditation gives you places of focus as you sit in attempted stillness. And you begin to find, without your mind or without stillness itself trying to identify itself, you start to find these focal points that sort of are rest stops for the mind. And they're called chakras. And you have 7 of them, and I've talked about them in the introductory class, but there's one at the top of your head which kind of releases you from all thought. There's one right in the middle of your forehead, third eye, which in a way clarifies thought. It brings things into focus. When you're not thinking and you reside in this space, it's clarity without words. It's just clarity. It's a kind of what I would call knowing. when you bring your attention to the throat chakra and you sit there quietly, the urge to express is still there, but you let go of expression. So you just reside in this place of kind of pre-speech. It's like creative center, the place from which the ego wants to express itself, but you let it not express itself. And for some people it's a little bit of a challenge sitting here because it feels like you're energizing the I. But what's really interesting with the I is that when it moves beyond chatter, it starts to go into a deeper space where it starts to say, I need to get my act together. So it's a deeper expression of I. And then it starts to become prayer, where it essentially is saying, help me. That's a very interesting place to get in terms of your meditation, because you start to go beyond the place where you're in charge, where you think you know what to do, and you go to something quieter. And when you say, help me, it allows you to wait for a response. And it doesn't, you're no longer, it's not up to you. Something can happen. When you get to your heart chakra, and you remain very still, the fascination for me with the heart chakra is feeling. And what you can feel here when you're in stillness is what I call well-being. The idea of walking into, I always describe it as a warm house on a cold night. It's like, it's where you belong. You can walk into this space and it's like, you take off your coat, you just settle into the warm chair, and you feel really at home. And then you start to feel cozy, and then you start to feel warm, and you start to feel happy, and you start to feel joy. You feel a kind of bliss, you feel love, contentment. It's right there. It's just right there. And it's not coming because you have anything or you have done anything. It's just sitting there, and it's like, wow. And it's a kind of resting spot. And the more you sit there, the more this funny thing happens. It just kind of expands. It kind of wafts out. And you go, huh. And you don't really want to move or go anywhere. Nothing is going to give you more than that. I mean, there are people you love who may enter the space and make it, magnify it in a way, but it's only more of this. It's more of this joy that's already there. And it starts to go into a kind of profound acceptance of just who you are, where you are. It's very non-judgmental. And then at the very core of the heart chakra, there's this, what I call portal, that every so often just goes, and then you're in a place of complete stillness, just absolute stillness. And it's completely free of the world, it's completely free of your mind, it's completely free of your need to get something external. It's everything you're looking for right there. Nothing you can open on Christmas morning will ever give you this. Nothing. Nothing you can earn in the world will ever give you this. No matter what status you acquire, it doesn't come close. Because you already have this. So this craziness of trying to get it, or buy it, or gift it, it's not possible. You just have it. It's there. And then that goes even deeper. It goes down into the belly, and in the belly it becomes a grounding of awareness that is no longer just you, it's universal. It's absolutely universal. It is vast beyond belief, and it is also you. But it is you with such magnitude, such an embrace of all there is, that the question, is this all there is, which is usually money, fame, whatever, that answer suddenly comes right here. Yes, this is all there is. And it is all there is. It's everything. It's all manifestation, and it's everything before manifestation. It's the form and the unformed. It's the real. It's just, you're sitting there and you go, you're grounded in the real. And it is a kind of presence and awareness that is indefinable and yet completely knowable. Shockingly real. You take the next chakra, which is your sex chakra, which is about regeneration, and you are able to take this sense of who you are and recreate it. To recreate, or in a way share, this being that you are with those around you. It becomes an enormous transmutive force. It changes you and it changes those around you. It's an enormously powerful force. Great teachers are filled with this force. They are able to continually circulate it, if you will, and bring it about in other people. It's an energy of great dynamic in your sex chakra. It's recreation of this personal self, the universal self, and the self that is manifest in every space around you. And then finally, at the base of the spine is this Kundalini energy, which I call uprising energy, or the energy of awe, but Rudy used to describe it in a very wonderful way as the integrative energy. It integrates all these centers so that you become a completely whole person. Someone whose mind works with their heart, someone whose heart works with their sexuality. All of these things all start to function as one force. When you say, is this all there is? The answer comes from that space, from this extraordinary inner space of awareness. Now, if you sit down today and you just close your eyes or open your eyes, however you do your meditation, and you just sit, will you get there? You know, maybe not. But it's kind of a practice. It's kind of something you have to work at. Because every time you sit, you will arrive at that place from a completely different perspective. Every minute of your life is a shifting perspective. It's always different. So if you get there right now, you just sit down and go, oh, I'm there. That's great. But try it 10 minutes later or an hour later, and you'll see it's not as accessible. It comes at you differently. So you have to really practice this thing, and what that builds is a kind of muscle. And that spiritual muscle, if you will, means that whenever you sit down, you begin this process of entering into the meditative space that opens and opens and opens and invites you in. And you become practiced, if you will, or good at it. And then the last, I can't say last phase, but the phase that I know of, is this thing that takes place, the you that is making this practice happen, suddenly and rather inexplicably falls away. So there's no more you trying to do this. There's no more you trying to get there. You are suddenly only there. There is nowhere but there. You've never ever been anywhere but there, truly. The only thing that's kept you from being there is the thing looking to get there. That's the complicating factor. The I that wants it is in fact the very thing that's separate from it. The I reaching for it is kind of the problem, because it wants this thing which it already is, but in stressing its desire for it, it separates itself from it. So sitting down to meditate for most people is, I am sitting to meditate to get there. And then you do get there. Most people sitting meditating get there, and then the meditation is done, and you go, well, that was great, I had a good meditation. And then you're right back into the I that is separate from the there. And that will go on for a very long time until something in you goes, whoa. And it's not even an intellectual thing, it's just a kind of metaphysical thing that goes, whoa. I am that. I am not separate from that. There's no me and it. There's just this. Now, how do you get there is no longer a question. It's only that you are there. You are there both as a locus, you are there, meaning here, and you are also the there. Whatever the there is what you are. And there is all there is. All there is this one totality, and that is who you are. And yes, there is a body here in the middle of it, there's a mind in the middle of it, there's a content that you define as a kind of I, and even when that I kind of dissipates and falls away, the body's still there, the mind is still there. But this idea of meditating to get there is no longer particularly useful. Because what are you trying to get to that you aren't already at? You're there. You're there. And then meditation is no longer something you do on a regular basis. You don't sit to get there. You just walk around being there. Period. And it's truly, truly extraordinary to be where you are. And it's kind of crazy because you're always where you are. There's never a time you're not there. Every one of you is there. You're there. But because you don't know you're there, because you feel, you ask that question, is this all there is? That very asking of that question is a definition of how far you are away from there. You know, nothing satisfies, nothing gives you what you're looking for. You're completely lost in the miasma of this manifested state, and you're in a state of unhappiness and depression and unsatisfied nature, and you suffer and life is horrible. What's the difference between that and this? It's just realization. It's clarity. It's like, oh. It's very hard, I think, to arrive at there without this practice. I don't know how you do it. I think maybe there are people who do. You hear of people sometimes who have instantaneous realization. They just go pop. They go, oh. But then they spend years trying to accommodate that, to understand, because it doesn't fit into the scheme of what everyone else is running around trying to fight for their I, and you're suddenly going, there is no I. How do you relate to a world where that's going on? It's kind of really complicated. And you don't know how to do it. And so for people who get there quickly, they spend the rest of their life trying to accommodate it. People who spend their life looking, when they arrive at that awareness, it's like, oh, and that's pretty much it. Oh, of course. And so it's not dramatic, it's not life-changing, it's nothing, it's just like, huh. And then you kind of walk around every day of your life within that state. You kind of walk around going, huh. And you know, there's a sense for many people that once you find that, it's over. And of course, I've talked a lot about how that doesn't appear to be the case. It's clearly not over, because you're still here, and you still got to deal with every day and all the stuff that goes on every day. But you're dealing with it from another perspective, which is all I can say. It's a bigger perspective. It's a sense of you are, they use the word, the totality. You are the totality. You are the absolute. And that's a sense you get. Everything you know, however that knowledge comes into you, from reading, from watching television, from talking to somebody, to sitting still in yourself, all of that enormous knowledge that keeps coming at you is continually integrated into a kind of awareness that is impossible to grasp. You just can't grasp it. And what you start to realize as you face the enormity of this mystery of existence is that you don't know anything. You really don't know anything. And that dawning, which is for me something that's been very profound in the last last month really, it's very humbling. I mean, it's really humbling because you don't know anything. I know nothing for certain, which makes me, as I've said other times in this teaching, hesitant to teach, because what can I tell you based on the fact that I don't know anything? But there is a knowing that is there, which is very simple. I know that I am. I don't even know what I am, but I know that I am. I know this moment is very, very alive for me. It's very alive. And that's my truth. And this moment gets filled with stuff. I don't have a lot to do with how it gets filled, although sometimes I think I do have something to do about it. I make certain plans that I'm going to do things, but that's not necessarily control. But stuff comes, and I just simply watch it more and more in a state of, wow, look at this. It just keeps happening, and it keeps happening in a way that's strangely harmonic. It feels really amazing. I used to worry about everything that might happen, and now I mean, there's still some, what I call Ashkenazi Jewish worry that goes on in the system. But I don't really worry. It's just, there's sometimes worry there, but it's not, I don't have to engage that worry. It's there, but mostly what there is kind of wonder at how it all comes together, how it all works. And then you just keep aware. You just stay aware. And, does this lead to, I don't know, heaven, hell, enlightenment? Is this enlightenment? You can name it anything you want. All I can say is it's a rather remarkable space. It's rather remarkable, and it's attainable. And I don't even know how it's attainable, but it gets attained. And if you want this thing, and why would you not want it? Because it's kind of everything you're looking for that's not being delivered by Christmas gifts and, the material world. It's just not coming through. In moments, tastes of it come through the material world. Little parcels of it comes through. And mostly people think, oh, I got a taste of it. If I do something right, I'll get more of a taste and more of a taste. Not true. You'll always get just a taste. But if you find that it's surrender and let go, or do this meditation and go deep, this extraordinary thing is present all the time, in its own form. And sometimes that form is delicious, and sometimes it's spicy, and sometimes it's bitter, and sometimes it's sorrowful, and sometimes it's joyful. It's doing all of these things, but it no longer kind of matters, because it's all like, wow, mostly I'm alive. Wow, this is happening. This is real. This is extraordinary. What else can you say? I have an LSD experiences that took me way, way out into the magnitude of the universe, and took me through death and rebirth and all of these huge things. But when it was over, I was back here. I was here. This is real. That was part of reality. It was very instructive, but this is where I am. And this is where I am until I'm not. And when I'm not, I'll find out, as we all will find out. I can project it, I can tell you what I think it might be, but I can't tell you anything with certainty. And I've talked a lot about certainty recently because I don't believe it exists. I don't think there's anything that's certain at all. And so the only thing I know is, here we are, something is speaking that I think is speaking from a very open and real place, and there's an energy that's working here, this energy which Rudy worked with a great deal, and it's something I'm quite fascinated by, because not every meditation and not every teacher does energy work, but energy is a kind of exchange or a sharing of something. And the way I kind of understood it today, because in that article in the New York Times they talk about the wheel that we're all on, and that we all need to go into the spoke. Rather than playing around on the outer part of the wheel, go into the spoke. And they describe that in early medieval imagery, you have the wheel with Christ at the very center. And there is, in a sense, Christ or Christ energy at the very center of this wheel. It's the self. It's what we are. And we all go back to the same thing. And I sort of felt today in the class that I was simply the elevator. And I would sit with each of you, and I would press basement, or whatever you want to call it, the center, and we would just go zoop, and together I would just take you to the core, the center, or as close to it as you could go or we could go. I mean, some people get nauseous as they go down, some people are afraid, or I don't know, but not everyone here was on the ride, and you just whoop, and it's energy of connectivity. The teacher in this case is able to help you draw down the elevator shaft into the portal of being. Christ consciousness, God consciousness, higher consciousness. It's just there. That's a really remarkable thing. Rudy taught me how to do that. I don't know. He didn't sit down and say, do this, do this, do this. He just got me on the elevator, and then I kind of figured it out. And then I try to take you guys on the elevator, and you'll figure it out. And then you can take other people on the elevator, and you just bring people back. Or kind of, if you walk around in your day-to-day life at that core space, you don't have to necessarily take people on the elevator. You just walk around emanating what's there. And they'll get a taste of it. And then if they ask you to go to help them or to teach them, you can just, once you figure out how to do this, take them there. Help them find that journey into themselves, into the self, which is, as I have said for years, is the same self. We all share the self. So energy work is really an incredible gift that makes this meditation a little bit easier. You're not quite as much on your own meditating. I mean, I've described this so many times when I was in India, and we would get up at 4 in the morning to meditate, and everyone would sit in the room, and you could be sitting meditating, and it would be, and that's not meditation. I don't care. I mean, I call it sleeping sitting up, but it's really not meditation. Meditation is clearly working into these spaces and going deep into the elevator and core of your existence. That's all it is. And we're all learning how to do it, and I can only tell you from what I feel is real to me, that the there is everything you've ever wanted in your life. That's all I can tell you. I don't think there's anything that it doesn't deliver. And that everything you think is out there, that you say, why is this all there is? Is this all there is? It's such an empty phrase. It's such a lack of knowledge. It's so ignorant. It's so unexposed. It's so reaching for everything that won't give you what you want or need. So the good thing about asking that question is it will at least begin this journey into finding what is true and what is there, and we're all in that process, and it's a great journey. So, Merry Christmas to those of you who are about to celebrate Christmas. I know this is a week or so early, but for the class here, this is the last time until I'll be back in January. Off to LA. Thank you guys for coming. And, as I say every time, you provoke something by being here that wants to be provoked in the world. You show up and it happens. It does. I mean, for me, if it happens by itself, by myself, it's fine. I'm very joyous about it. I'm fine. I share it with my wife, with my children, my grandchildren. I do the best I can in the world to be this, to be present. But when you guys show up, it really arises and it speaks itself. It speaks its truth, and so it wouldn't really do it if you didn't come. So. Thank you. Love you guys.